Chapter 5. The Watcher's Move. The first sign was the sound. Not sirens, not shouting. Just the low thump of something heavy striking stone. Cade Hollow felt it through his knees as he knelt at the altar, palms pressed together, breath steady in the dim sanctuary of St. Luke's Cathedral. The candles before him flickered, not from a draft, but from pressure. A concussive ripple moving through old stone that had endured centuries of belief and betrayal alike. Then the glass exploded. The cathedral's eastern windows shattered inward in a roar of splintering leaded panes and sacred geometry. Smoke canisters clattered across the marble floor, hissing violently as thick gray plumes swallowed the nave. Stone saints vanished into the haze. Light fractured. The air turned sharp with chemicals and powdered glass. Cade moved. He threw himself sideways as rounds tore through the space where he had been kneeling seconds earlier. Bullets chewed into pews, shattered hymnals, pulverized ancient wood into clouds of lethal splinters. Stone chipped and screamed. Corporate security flooded the entrance. They moved in practiced formation, armored, masked, efficient, rifles raised, visors down, no hesitation, no warning. Cade rolled behind a fallen pew as another burst raked the altar steps, marble cracking under the impact. His heart hammered against his ribs, adrenaline washing clarity through his fear. They came for me. He drew his weapon and returned fire. The recoil bit hard, echoing through the cathedral like blasphemy. One guard staggered as a round caught him in the shoulder joint, armor sparking. He fell, dragging another down with him as they collided. Smoke thickened. The world narrowed to cover and movement. Stone pillars, overturned benches, shattered glass crunching under boots. Cade moved fast, sliding from one column to the next, firing in controlled bursts. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't panicked. He was surviving. Rounds tore through the air where his head had been a heartbeat earlier. He ducked, sprinted, vaulted debris. A bullet clipped his coat, heat flashing across his side. He slammed into a pillar and pressed his back against the cold stone, breathing hard. Then the gunfire stopped. Not gradually, instantly. Silence crashed down like a held breath released. Cade peeked around the pillar. The guards at the entrance were still standing, but the ones closest to the center aisle were wrong. One was missing his head. Another knelt, frozen mid-step, torso severed cleanly at the waist. The cut so precise the two halves hadn't yet separated. Blood hadn't sprayed. It had simply fallen, neat and obscene against the marble. A third collapsed silently, throat opened from ear to ear, weapon clattering harmlessly beside him. The smoke shifted, and Sable Kenshi stood within it. He had not entered through the doors. He was simply there, moving. A guard turned, rifle lifting. Sable passed him. The katana whispered once. The man fell in pieces that made no sound. Sable did not slow. He did not rush. He flowed, cutting tendons, severing spines, removing heads with the same calm efficiency one might use to dismantle machinery. Every strike was lethal. Every movement final. A guard lunged. Sable caught the wrist, twisted, and drove the blade upward beneath the rib cage. He leaned close as the man gasped soundlessly, eyes wide behind his visor. "Be still," Sable said. He withdrew the blade. The body dropped. In less than 30 seconds, the cathedral floor was littered with dismembered remains. No screams, no chaos. Just the aftermath of a force that did not announce itself. Sable turned. Cade stood frozen, weapon lowered, chest heaving. "It's time," Sable said. "We're going to save Silas." Silas drifted back to consciousness in fragments. White light burned behind his eyelids, too bright to belong to any natural place. His mouth tasted like copper and antiseptic. Every nerve in his body hummed with a dull electrical ache that made it impossible to tell where the pain began and where it ended. He tried to move. The restraints answered first. Bands of composite alloy locked his wrists and ankles into place, humming softly as they tightened by fractions of a millimeter, just enough to remind him they were there. Cold flooded his veins as suppressive fields rippled across his skin, pressing inward, muffling the rune beneath his chest like a hand over a mouth. Silas laughed weakly. "Still alive," he muttered. A voice spoke from somewhere beyond the glass, not loud, not cruel, calm. "Explain the rune." Silas squinted against the light. The room resolved slowly. Glass walls, observation ports, medical arms poised like insects waiting for permission to land. Shadows moved beyond the glass, indistinct and faceless. "I've been over this," Silas said hoarsely. "I don't know how it works." A pause. "Incorrect," the voice replied. "You don't understand how it works." Silas swallowed. His throat felt raw, scraped down to muscle. "Semantics," he said. The lights dimmed, not all at once, section by section, as if the room itself were shutting its eyes. A door hissed open behind him. Silas didn't turn. He couldn't. He heard the footsteps instead, uneven, dragging slightly, accompanied by a soft, irregular sound that might have been breathing or laughter. The man stepped into view. He wore no insignia, no markings, no visible tech. Just a smooth, featureless mask pulled tight over his head, its surface broken only by a mouth carved too wide, the edges warped as if melted and reset incorrectly. The man tilted his head. He made a sound, wet, amused, almost childlike. Silas's pulse spiked. "Let me guess," Silas said. "You're the creative type." The man laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound that echoed off the glass. He said nothing. One of the mechanical arms descended, injecting something cold into Silas's arm. His muscles spasmed immediately, seizing so hard his back arched against the restraints. Pain detonated through his spine, white hot and blinding. Silas screamed. The man leaned in close, mask inches from Silas's face, head cocked as if listening to music only he could hear. He hummed softly, the tune tuneless and wrong. The pain stopped. Silas gasped, sweat pouring down his face, lungs burning. "Rune," the voice beyond the glass said again. "Explain." Silas laughed hysterically. "Go to hell." The man straightened. He raised one gloved hand and brought it down sharply on Silas's knee. There was a sound, not a crack, a pop. Silas howled, vision fracturing as agony tore through his leg. The man laughed again, longer this time, rocking slightly on his heels. Another strike. Silas's scream cut off into a strangled sob. The rune beneath his skin flared instinctively and was crushed back down by the suppressive field, the sensation of suffocation worse than the pain itself. The man leaned closer, pressing the smooth mask against Silas's forehead. His breath fogged the surface. He made a gurgling sound that might have been delight. Minutes blurred, hours. Pain came in waves, electric, chemical, mechanical. Fingers bent backward until joints screamed. Pressure applied to nerves until Silas begged without realizing he'd started. The man never spoke, never rushed, never showed impatience, only fascination. At some point, Silas began laughing again, not because it was funny, but because it was the only thing left that felt like his. The man clapped his hands together once, delighted, then drove a needle deep beneath Silas's sternum. Everything went white. The last thing Silas heard before the darkness took him was the man's laughter echoing through the room, thin and unhinged. Then nothing. Lucien Morvex watched the footage without blinking. The screens wrapped around the command chamber in a cold arc of glass and light, each one replaying the assault on St. Luke's Cathedral from a different angle. Exterior drones, interior helmet cams, thermal overlays that painted the smoke-filled nave in ghostly gradients of heat and motion. Bodies lay scattered across the marble floor, dismembered, silent, clean. Elara Voss stood beside him, hands folded behind her back, posture immaculate. Her expression did not change as the footage looped again, sable moving through smoke like a shadow given weight, blade flashing once, twice, never more than necessary. Guards fell without warning, without sound. "Sable Kenshi," Elara said at last. Her voice was flat, clinical, confirmed, visual match across all angles. Morvex's mechanical eye whirred softly as it adjusted focus, tracking Sable frame by frame. The glow within it brightened a fraction. "And Cade hollow," Morvex said. Elara swiped her tablet, pulling up biometric readings and trajectory paths. "Present at the site, returned fire, took cover effectively." She paused. "Eliminated?" she asked. Morvex shook his head once. "No, protected." Elara's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "By him?" "Yes." "That complicates containment," she said. "Hollow was never meant to be a variable." Morvex turned from the screens. The city far below reflected across the chrome lattice of his jaw. "No," he said. "It accelerates it." He stepped forward, and the chamber responded. Lights dimming, doors unlocking, personnel indicators flickering to life across Elara's display. Morvex did not wait for the lift. He descended the tower on foot. Boots struck polished floors with heavy finality as elite units assembled below. Armored response teams locking plates into place. Drones rising from magnetic racks, specialists checking weapons calibrated for suppression rather than kill. The air buzzed with quiet efficiency. Elara walked beside him, tablet alive with cascading data. "Silas Kross remains contained," she said. "Interrogation ongoing, resistance higher than projected." "He always was," Morvex replied. "Eliminating him now would be simpler." Morvex stopped at the base of the tower. "No," he said, "not yet." Elara looked up at him. "Sable has intervened. The rune has activated again. Every second Kross breathes, the city bends around him." Morvex's mechanical eye burned brighter. "Then we apply pressure," he said. "Everywhere." He turned to the assembled forces. "Seal all underground access points, lock transit corridors, prepare secondary containment protocols." Elara's voice was calm when she said it. "Silas Kross cannot leave that facility." Morvex's lips curled into something that was not quite a smile. "He will," he said. "Alive or dead. One way or another." Sable and Cade moved through the tunnels without hesitation. Steel and concrete swallowed them as the cathedral receded behind layers of earth and infrastructure. The deeper they went, the colder the air became, scrubbed clean by corporate filtration systems, stripped of moisture, stripped of mercy. Lights embedded in the tunnel walls cast a sterile white glow, revealing maintenance markings, access codes, and warning glyphs painted over older symbols no one remembered authorizing. Cade kept his weapon raised, finger steady along the frame. His breathing had slowed, but his pulse still thundered in his ears. "You knew they'd come," he said quietly. Sable did not look at him. "Yes." "And you waited." "Yes." Cade swallowed. "How many were there?" "Enough," Sable replied. They passed a junction where the tunnel widened briefly, revealing reinforced blast doors etched with Vantacore insignia. Surveillance cameras tracked their movement, lenses adjusting, recording. Sable raised his head slightly. The cameras went dark. The air grew colder, sterile. "Clinical." Ahead, voices echoed. Short commands, The hiss of hydraulic seals, the low mechanical hum of systems waking into readiness. Security. Cade tightened his grip. They know we're here. They've known since the cathedral, Sable said. He slowed his pace then, one hand drifting toward the hilt of his blade. Stay behind me, he said. They rounded the final bend. Light spilled into the tunnel, harsh and unforgiving. Armored silhouettes filled the space ahead. Rows of corporate security braced behind ballistic shields, rifles raised, drones hovering like patient insects above them. Orders were shouted, weapons powered up, targeting systems locked. Sable stepped forward. The katana cleared its sheath with a sound so soft it barely existed. The city, far above them, held its breath,